Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Cindy Daychuk, founder of the Titan Training Group and author of the book, It's Time Now, Choose the Life You Really Want. I have to start off this video by thanking those of you that sent emails and posted comments and gave us feedback on, first of all, the first video, but in essence as well, the idea and concept behind this series. I was very excited that individuals were taking the time to be able to provide us with that feedback. Certainly it meant that there were those of you that were out there paying attention to it and watching it, but as well for those of you that were already finding some help from it. Very gratifying for me. Thank you for taking the time to do that. Today what I want to do is to start to jump into the second stage. You'll recall if you had participated in the first video that we were looking at setting up a 3-video series to be able to give you some of the basic foundational skills necessary to develop your skills in bragging. First video, we talked about the why, that first step in the process, gaining some understanding as to why in today's world of work, in today's marketplace, it's more important than ever that we develop some skill in being able to self-market and promote ourselves, that we develop our bragging skills. And really, we spent a little bit of time talking about why this makes a difference, why this is important to us, and really how it would help us be able to build our careers better and more strategically. In today's video, I want to shift over and talk about the what you'd market. We're moving from the why to the what. And as we take a look at this then, what becomes important to consider is building some framework for understanding what we would talk about, what we would want to promote, what we would want to highlight. And really, in its most basic sense, we want to talk about our strengths. You know, I talked about that analogy of a company marketing its product and a company not being able to talk about the 20 things that it is good about, that are the 20 things that are good about the product, but having to focus their marketing efforts on the 1 or 2 key things that that product brings to the marketplace. In essence, you should be doing the same thing, but that's not what we tend to do. We tend to spend a lot of time trying to convince everyone around us that we're good at 50 things, at 100 things. You want it, I can do it. And we then dilute our message. It's not credible. It's not believable. There is no way that you're equally capable and equally competent of doing all those different things. But we spend a lot of time trying to convince people of it and then trying to live up to it. Ultimately, it costs us. It dilutes our message, and at the end of the day, there's no way that we can be as effective in all those different activities and tasks. It doesn't necessarily start with us, though. It isn't necessarily our fault, because organizations tend to almost train us into that kind of behavior where it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel comfortable for us to admit, oh, I'm not good at that. I can't do that. And mostly because of, and here's where I get into hot water with some HR folks, so bear with me. But mostly because of performance management systems. You know, you look at performance management, and most performance management systems have this line, right? They have the, what I call the meets expectations line, right? And most performance management systems are designed to capture this. Now, most employees' performance kind of hovers around this line. You know, there's some things that I'm better at, some things I'm not as good at, right? But overall, I tend to meet expectations. Here's where the issue comes in, because our performance is always going to be like this. I've got some strengths and I've got some weaknesses. Most performance management systems, though, if you really start to think about it, really focus on putting together developmental plans to pull your performance up in those areas where you fall short. And in essence then, in doing that, they focus on what I call the below the line activities. I'm not fulfilling the requirements of the job. I'm not meeting expectations. I need to improve my performance. Let's put in place some training plans, some systems, some coaching in order to be able to help you meet expectations. Sounds good. Sounds reasonable. There's a catch. When we look at this, we look at here's where we spend our corporate training dollars. The problem with this is that we get what we focus on. And if we're focusing on these below the line activities and increasing performance in those areas, then we are developing skills that meet expectations. This is a plan in developing mediocrity. It's about developing our people in a way that they're going to be able to meet expectations, not to help them exceed them. Instead, what we need to do is we need to focus on the above the line activities. If I don't, they fall off because I get what I focus on. I'm focusing below the line. I'm going to get improvement here. But these elements, these above the line activities, this is what makes a difference within the organization, within an organization. This is where our organization then becomes a leading organization, becomes cutting edge. This is where we can make a difference. And for individuals, this is where our talents lie. This is where our key strengths are. We might be able to improve these, but the odds are we're never going to be amazing at them. Somebody else might. But our key strengths, our areas of phenomenal, amazing, outstanding, are above the line. It means that if we work for employers that are focusing on these below the line activities, okay, great. But then we are doing ourselves a disservice if we stop there. We need to ensure that we continue to focus on, develop, and enhance these abilities, because that's what we're going to build a career on. That's what's going to differentiate us in the marketplace, and that's what we should be promoting. This is what true leaders know and recognize and understand. They know what key strengths and talents set them apart from the crowd. What are those key strengths and talents that really differentiate them, that make a difference for them? And they build a career and a brand around that. That's what they get known for. That's their value added. And I invite you to start to explore and think about yours. There's a model that I want to share with you that comes from a consultant named Dan Sullivan. And what he has is the following. I'm kind of drawing it up high so that we can capture it in the camera. But what he looks at is that this is representative of you as an individual. And one of the things that you have to bear in mind is that each of us has what he labels unique abilities. And these are those skills, strengths, and talents that you have that are truly unique to you. We all have areas of excellence. So key things that we are excellent at, that we are extremely good at. We have things that we're good at, and I'm paraphrasing here because this next word is definitely my own. But we also have some things that we definitely suck at. The problem is that you saw from that first chart that I shared with you, right? The below the line activities. Well, really, these are kind of that represent the below the line activities, these areas out here. And unfortunately, we develop a sensitivity to not being good at some things. And so we try and strengthen them. We try and develop some level of expertise and excellence in them. But the pieces that really set us apart from individuals is anything within these two spheres, and in particular, these. We want to find ways to be able to capitalize on these areas. We want to spend some time trying to recognize and understand what our unique abilities are. And unique abilities are those things that, quite honestly, most of us take for granted. they come so easily and so readily to us that we often fall into the trap of discounting them. We don't think of them as being particularly valuable or being a strength just because they tend to come to us so easily. To be able to identify yours then, a couple of things, a couple of keys to watch for. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, and I don't know that I'm saying that correctly, and I am definitely not going to spell it for anybody, but he wrote an amazing book called Finding Flow. And one of the things that he says is that when we're engaged in those activities, when we are in flow, those activities that really utilize those key strengths, those unique abilities, we'll find that time just flies. It's not dragging. We're not looking at the clock. People will be leaving the office saying, wow, you're really working late. You'll look up and go, really? It's 6 o'clock already? Where'd the time go? It's because we're so engaged. We're so caught up. We were in those moments of flow, like athletes call it being in the zone, right? But those moments, we're engaging those unique abilities and talents. Other people recognize that in us. They see it often before we do. They know that we have skills that definitely exceed theirs in these particular areas. And one of the cues that you can look for when you're trying to identify what your unique abilities are is go back and think about what were the things that others came to us and asked us for help on. Things that they perhaps commented, man, you're just so good at that. You know, this seems so easy for you. Use those as cues to be able to help you identify some of those unique abilities. Because the more that you're able to identify those and build a career around those, that's where success is really going to lie. That's certainly where a heightened level of satisfaction is going to come from. But this is what's going to set you apart from everybody else. And it's these pieces, and in particular these, that you really want to build your bragging moments around, that you really want as the foundational element of your self-marketing and self-promotion systems. Seeing areas of excellence? Absolutely. Utilize those as well. But the more that you can build a career around just these elements, certainly the greater your level of satisfaction, the greater your level of happiness and enjoyment in the work that you do. But that's where a really powerful marketing campaign kicks in. Because these are the things that you want to do more of. Now you may have some things, some areas of excellence things that you're particularly good at, particularly skilled at, but you don't like doing. Watch for that. Just because you're particularly good at something doesn't necessarily mean that it's something you really want to do a lot of. And you have to watch for that because other people will recognize your skill and talent in that area and keep giving you more of it. They'll keep assigning it to you. But you need to become better at being able to articulate and sell them on the things that you are excellent at, your unique abilities, and that you love. If you love doing it, you want more of it. Not always just because you're great at something. But what we want to do is minimize the amount of time that any job requires us to be operating out here. Minimize it as much as possible, and certainly focus on developing and strengthening ourselves in these areas. The better and the stronger that we get at it, the more that we stand apart from others. The more that we're the recognized expert in that area, and the more that we get promoted because of that strength and that opportunity. When looking at this, spend some time in defining this. Spend some time in really trying to identify in particular what those unique abilities are. Listen for the triggers in the way that other people talk to you, the way that they refer to you and reference you. Take a look at key accomplishments that you've had and dissect them. Create a list of those key accomplishments and then create a secondary list for each that highlights what were the key strengths, talents, abilities that I utilized in the fulfillment of that particular accomplishment. And start to list those out for each of the accomplishments. Look for the overlap. Look for those that seem to come up more often than not. Those are likely going to be good indicators of some really key strengths that you have. We all have them. If you're feeling some pushback from yourself about, I really don't think I have any, I don't have anything special about me, then start to spend some time with maybe some friends. Get them to think about, what would you say are some of my key strengths? What are things about me that you look to me for or that you admire in me? Gain some of their insights to open yourself to some of the things that you're not seeing or that you're not giving yourself credit for, and explore from there. Start to explore out, how did those play out on the job? How have they impacted the success that I've enjoyed thus far? How have they impacted or played a role in the achievements that I've had and that I've made and experienced over the course of my life? And that's going to start to highlight for you the what you need to be promoting. Hopefully this makes sense for you. Hopefully you take some moments to be able to start mapping some of these out, to be able to have something concrete that you want to start to highlight and move forward. You don't get it right the first time, that's okay. As you start to identify others, start promoting those instead. But the difference is don't wait until you think that you are right or until it's perfect. Any steps that you take today in promoting yourself are going to be advancing you in ways that you were not doing yesterday. Right? So we're not looking for perfection. We are looking for some action. Makes sense? Hopefully. Next video, we're going to be talking about moving into the how. Spend a little bit of time now in defining some of your what. That will help perhaps make sense of some of the hows we'll talk about. May trigger in your mind ways to be able to talk about some of these to your audience in some of your promotional efforts. Thank you for spending the time with me on this video. I look forward to serving you in the third. And until next time, remember, you are the difference you want to see in your life. So go out and do something different today.